Maureen, you have many objects that look like they were difficult to acquire.
They were.
How did you come to select and acquire the objects that are in this exhibition?
A lot of my friends would travel down south and they'll say, girl, I'm at an auction. And I'm like, here's some money, get it for me, please. And then a lot of online auctions. But I learned that you have to be careful because sometimes they'll say it's older, but you look at it and like, no. So, but I was able to get a lot of pieces from friends. Their grandparents had it, or their great-grandparents had some things, and they were saying, okay, we're gonna get rid of these, I'll take it, that kind of thing. So that was always cool just to get my hands on things. There was an auction here in Portsmouth, and a girl named Juanita came. She said, girl, I found you some stuff. And it was a whole big bunch of the vinegar bottles.
Maybe before my time.
Well, they're in my dining room. My house is covered with these kinds of things. But anyway, he said $1. And so she said, I got you. So she brought them to me. She brought them to me at work, and I was like, thank you. So I get stuff from all over. People mail me things. When people pass, they're like, you want to come to this house and get what you want? I was like, I'm on my way. So all over, just anywhere and everywhere that I can.
Wonderful. I have a few favorites. I've been helping install the show with our creative director, Charlotte Gordon, this week. But a few of my favorites, one is the mammy who eats coins. Mm-hmm. So you can feed the coin into Mammy's mouth and she shuts her eyes and swallows the coin. Mm-hmm. Just some really unusual objects. Also, there are some really highly charged historical objects. So mm-hmm. It looked like there were some tags with numbers.
Slave tags.
Could you tell me more about those objects?
Slave tags, they were, you know how you have to get license for your dogs? Well, they had slave tags for their slaves, their indentured servants, if you will. And so they had to have those on. And if they were caught without them, that means you escaped. So you would be killed or your leg cut off or whatever. And so that was to show that you were someone's property. If you could imagine that.
Wow.
That was, you had no say. Women could, they could, it's not that they could, but they were forced to be wet nurses and breastfeed Massa's little white baby while their own baby's over here starving. And you did this to us and we couldn't drink out of your water fountain. So just lots of little things happened, but you had no control of your own body. Women were raped, beaten, men were sodomized, all kinds of things happened because you were property and they could do whatever and you had no control, no say. And so those slave tags are important because we don't ever want to do anything like that, you know, ever again. So that's a piece that I always like to show the children because I ask them, how many of you like to go to McDonald's or how many of you like to go to, Burger King? And they raise their hand, and I'm like, what if you couldn't? And I have a green book. I don't know if I gave you it, it's not in there. Well, it's in my dining room then. But the green book was a book for motorists because after freedom occurred, segregation and Jim Crow and all that took effect. And so you couldn't go to a white restaurant. Well, to restaurants, period. They were all white restaurants at that time. And so there were some that would allow you to go to the back door and they would give you a brown bag because you couldn't touch their silverware, you couldn't touch their plate, you couldn't use their bathrooms and that kind of thing. And so it was quite horrible. And so I let the kids know we didn't have this liberty always. I remember when I was a kid, we traveled and we packed our own food and we ate under trees. Even gas stations, which gas stations you were allowed to, they wouldn't sell you gas. Wow. There were certain places that if you tried to go buy gas, they would just lynch you. The strange fruit, those trees, they would hang black bodies from the trees because you wanted gas or because you wanted something to eat. And so it was a horrible thing. So I just want the kids to know these are liberties that we didn't always have. So treasure it. And remember the sacrifice. We stand on the shoulders of greatness. We stand on the shoulders of our ancestors who paved the way for us. They went through hell and high water and gasoline draws so that we can have the right to the liberties that we enjoy now. So I will get you that green book. And so there were just lots of things that we couldn't do. And so I just want them to understand, enjoy that freedom and teach your children where we come from as a people so they'll appreciate where we are now. Things are changing so bad, they're trying to take us back, and we can't let that happen. But in order to keep that from happening, we have to know where we've been to understand our plight.
Since we're talking about where we've been, one of the more horrific, we have many objects that are not horrific or showing necessarily direct brutality, but the objects that are behind us right now, and we can kind of look this way. So right here and right here, respectively, we have, it looks like special collars.
Slave collars.
Could you tell me about those objects?
Yes, when they came here and were enslaved, when they were forced to brought here and became enslaved, the collars were a torture. There were some that if they wanted to run away, they wanted to be free. If I can't be free, I'd rather die. There's a song that says, and before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. And so they just wanted freedom. They just wanted to be free. And so there were runners. There were runners. I would have run too. I would have tried. God help me. I would have tried. But anyway, those that were the strong men, they were afraid of the strong men, they would put a slave collar on. And so if you're trying to run through the trees and whatnot, if you got a bell around your neck, you're not hard to find. And when they do get you, off with your leg. Maybe they start with your foot or your leg, or else you just, I think it was 39 lashes. It was really horrible. Well, 39 was the number of lashes also that you got. If they were picking cotton and didn't get it, if they got a pound short, 39, even to the youngest baby, 2-year-olds were picking cotton, but they would get 39 lashes. And be forced to be, they beat you all night, and then in the morning, you're back in that field. And you better have the mounted or get beat again, that kind of thing. So these relics are staunch reminders of the brutality that we face on a regular basis.
Maureen, what are some of your favorite objects in this exhibition?
This is one of my favorite pieces. It's not a popular piece, but it's one of my favorite pieces. Let me give you a little history first. There was a game, a carnival game, back in roughly 1836 to the 1950s. I was born when they did this, so I'm like, really? But there was a horrible carnival game. Some called it Dodgers, some called it Hit the Coon, but the predominant name on the big banners, and I have lots of pictures of those, Hit the Nigger Baby. And so they would take toddlers, human babies, and put them behind a tarp with their heads sticking out. And white children and white grown-ups would take a ball, a baseball, and throw the ball at the baby and hit the nigger baby. And they had a supply of babies, so when one was maimed or killed or whatever, they would just go get another one next. And they just thought that, hoo-hoo, ha-ha, that was so funny. It wasn't funny, these are mother's children. And so, although it was quite horrible, it was across the United States. And it was a big deal. Well, this game right here is a derivative of that. And this is called Baby Rack. And you can see the little black babies in here. Well, the object of the game is to put the ammo in, pull it back, and hit the nigger baby. How horrible is that? Our lives meant nothing. Our children meant nothing. And it was a fun and game kind of thing. And so I found 2 of these. I found one, and it was like $5,000, and I was like, we'll let it come down a little bit. Then I found this one, and they didn't know what they had on that auction, and I was like, so I got this one very, very affordably. This was made in Dayton, Ohio, and this was sold all over, and children played this game, and it was a joy for them, but not for us.
Wow. That is really shocking. And I know a lot of times through play, that's how children learn how to be grown-ups, right? So they're normalizing this really terrible behavior, and by the time they're grown up, then feels normal.
Those lives mean nothing. They weren't considered to be human, so, you know, it
Wow.
meant nothing.
Wow. What are some other objects that you think are especially valuable to you?
My quilts. I have always seen quilts, and I'm like, well, I want some quilts to tell our story. And so there just weren't many quilts that told our story. And so I'm like, I can do this. I can make my own. Sometimes you got to be creative. And so I wanted to be able to tell the story of during slavery, especially during the time of Harriet Tubman's time. If there was a quilt on the clothesline, it told you a message. So if you were traveling and you saw a quilt on the clothesline or hanging out anywhere, if you saw a sign, each symbol meant something. So there's a symbol of like the flying geese. If you see the flying geese, they knew what that meant. They knew that meant, okay, there's safety here. I'm gonna get some food and some water, and I'll be able to rest for the night. And so, conversely, if you were traveling and you see black-eyed peas on the ground, don't move. That means the hounds are out, master's watching. Don't advance. Don't go toward that place. There was a sailboat on the quilt, and so if you saw a sailboat, that meant we'll get you out here by water. So you're going to have a closer, increased chance of getting to freedom. And there were so many signs, and one of the quilts back here, I found some fabric that has it written instead of just the symbols, because everybody doesn't know what the symbols are. So it makes it easier. It has the symbol, and then it tells what it is. So that makes it easier for children to see those and understand, oh, that's what that meant. That's what that means. And so I just love the quilts, and I had the opportunity to make them. And we were always depicted as good for nothing watermelon meat. Nothing wrong with watermelon, but they said that's all we were good for. Flip flop, yeah, mouse, women, some melons, so, you know. No, we're more than that. And so every time you see like a lot of the caricatures, they always get a piece of watermelon. And that was a derogatory thing against black people. And so I have a whole quilt that's dedicated to watermelon. And then you'll see the pickaninnies and there's a couple in there that don't look so bad, but most of them, it's always a bad look and a bad depiction.
I'm really interested. I know that you have your fabric self-printed. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering about where you got your images from.
Anywhere and everywhere. A lot of these images I grew up watching. There were so many cartoons and things that they're banned now, so you'll never find those images out there. They even had an old Bugs Bunny, and I remember watching it as a kid, and I was so offended. And he was in Africa, and then he went to slavery. Y'all are lost, and Bugs Bunny had these big lips, and he was black. I mean, purple black. And I'm like, for real? So when I found images from some of those books and cartoons, I just took pictures of them. Then I sent them to Spoonflower, and they made fabric. You can pick whatever kind of fabric you want, and they'll and whatever size you want, and they'll put it on fabric for you. So then I have a neighbor, her name Holly Davis, and she's always sewing and doing projects and stuff. She made cowboy Christmas boots. She is so talented. Anyway, and I said, Holly, let's do some stuff together. And so my first quilt was the Freedom Quilt, and I said, Holly, here's what I'm thinking. Here's my vision, and here's the fabric. Do it. And she never disappoints. Every time she comes up with something that's totally perfect and exactly what I want. And so it's just, I'm tickled to be able to have learned how to go find the fabric and make the fabric that I want.
That is really, sounds very empowering. And I also think it's really interesting that you're able to reference pop culture when you're creating these. So it's not just a picture of, somebody eating a watermelon. They're pictures that you have seen and been offended by. Yeah. Throughout many, many years. Yeah. So, very, very cool.
And the one, the mammy quilt, like I told you, the one is a cartoon, and it's called Scrub Me Mama with a Boogie Beat. And I'm like, I've got to have her on the quilt. It's not a quilt without her on there. And it was a cartoon called Lazy Town. And they all sitting around like this. Yes, I'm all sitting there. It was just really horrible. And so I took a picture of I blew it up and then took a picture of it, the video, and then just took a picture off of the video. And it's on the quilt. But that's one of my special little pieces on that quilt because, yeah, she was a cartoon that I watched. Didn't like it, but I watched it when I was growing up.
How neat to be able to turn a mirror, you know, not just passively kind of ingest this information, but be able to turn a mirror back on our culture and say, look at what you're producing, and maybe we should rethink these images that we're seeing.
Yeah. And there are so many cartoons and videos and whatnot that the kids will never see, and I'm kind of glad because some of them were really, really bad. If you watched cartoons every day, it's okay. Well, no, it wasn't. Those kinds of things. So, and then I just to be able to know that I have those, and sometimes these older kids, I'll show them the videos, and they're like, "No, they didn't." Yes, they did every day, and this was on Mr. Cartoon Show. Yeah. So. Just wanted to be able to have those things.
How powerful in the wrong direction, how powerfully negative to see a depiction over and over and over.
Yeah, that meant it was okay. Just like if you went to school every day and you didn't see any black teachers, you didn't see any educators, you didn't see any black doctors, you didn't see anybody black that was doing anything. What does that say to you? You can't be a teacher. You can't be this. You can't be that. And so even with my own children, I always, when they were babies, that they couldn't even talk, I would push their head up to the mirror and I'm like, you are important. You have value. You have worth. You are somebody. And I always tell them, don't you let anybody tell you what you can or can't be. Only God can do that. But whatever you dream, do it, be it. And I will support you. And many times I've had to go and support and fight and do whatever I had to do, but it was necessary. I remember a time, you didn't ask for this, so I'll just those, you can delete this if you want to, but my son Nate was discriminated against in school. He had beautiful hair, but his hair was long, but it was cornrowed, or it was braided or plaited. And I know it was a good job because I did it myself. And so he showed up for basketball pictures and they said, no, you look like a thug. That you're not taking a picture with this team. Who says? Well, they refused to let him. And I said, okay, I got you. So I called the superintendent, I called everybody. I went to the chain of command. I couldn't get satisfaction. So I contacted the Ohio State Board of Education, fought my own case and won it. And they proved, and I have the letter, it's in a safe because I still had children in school, but the letter says that Portsmouth City Schools discriminated against my son, so they had to retake pictures. They apologized to me, and I could have got paid, but I just wanted to prove a point. So Portsmouth Schools had to shut down, all of them, from the janitor to the principal. They had to shut down, and all of them had cultural sensitivity classes. And so I felt like I was vindicated in that. But sometimes you have to fight. You have to step up and say, not today, not here, not my child. So people still call me today saying, can you help me? This is going on with my child. I'm like, my kids are grown, I'm old. But if it's a fight that I feel I want to partake in, sometimes you got to choose your battles. But I never allowed anybody to tell them anything that they couldn't do or wrong them. I'm like, no, not today, not on my watch.
And that's interesting because today, Nate has beautifully plaited long hair and is an educator.
Yeah, right. But they told him that you can't, and you can't take a picture. You're going to decide that his hair is not, I braided that. I did that myself, and I know it's right. So they said it had to be off the neck, and I twisted. Nothing was on his neck, nothing was hanging, and he likes long hair, and he's always had long hair. I won't let anybody dictate what they can and can't do.
Great. Well, what a powerful example. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Maureen.
Sure.
And it just was a real privilege to talk to you today.
Okay. Thank you.